How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Palantir. You guys know I love this stock. I have a good amount of shares that I'm holding for the long term, but I've been getting those questions, Dre. We need to get an update. It's been a minute, so hey, here's the video. So before we get started, of course, we got to go over the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you are a shareholder or you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to be going over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance and what we can look forward to in regards to anticipation going into earnings, because I know many of you are going to be playing off of these spikes. And then afterwards, we're going on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and as well as the short interest information. We want to know, are institutions loading up on shares? And if there are shorts who are heavily vested inside of this play, by what degree? And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know, were institutions taking part in large-scale orders on the Friday? This is definitely key because it will have an impact on the stock price. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts. So let's get to it. So we're going to be doing a technical analysis for Palantir. Let's see how it performed on Friday. So it ended up closing today at $21.82, being down 3.11%. On the low, it tested 21.79, and then on the high, testing 22.69. Taking a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 24.201 million shares, and as far as for the average volume over 10 trading days, it's around 19.625 million shares. So we did have above average volume, but you can tell there was a lot of selling pressure. We had the 10-year note that was spiking, and stocks like Palantir end up being impacted by this. When we take a look at the RSI down below, you can see it's right around 41.64. So we are in the oversold territory. When we take a look at our chart, one thing that we can notice right away, where Palantir actually closed was an area of support. We know it's been trading in quite the range as of late, and we do know as far as this $23 level, this is a psychological level here. If Palantir is able to get past $23, then of course we can end up seeing some strength going towards the upside. But what we see here very clearly here, we have an area of resistance right here in the 22.60 range. So if we're able to get past this area, that's why I was saying we can get to around 23. But as far as how it's looking right now, at the moment, there could be some more downward pressure, especially if the 10-year continues to spike coming on the Monday. If it reverses this trend, then I'm looking forward to seeing Palantir gap back above $22 and continue to do these retests, as you can see the triple top that we have here. So I would definitely be patient if you're looking to actually be inside of this play, and make sure you're getting it at a really good price by paying attention to support and as well. Now, as far as for anyone that wants to go long-term on Palantir, I'd be patient throughout this entire week. You could see for the past 3 earnings report, they've been able to beat expectations, but I feel like just leading up, which is going to be August the 12th, you should be able to actually see some sell-offs that are going to be occurring, because that's been pretty much the continuous thing we've been seeing as of late. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for Palantir. So as we scroll down on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So we're going to be taking a look at August the 6th to be exact, and we can see there's a lot of institutional activity here in regards to the purchasing of shares, but of course these are just from filings, okay? So you can see it goes far back quite a bit, but what we can see as far as the new positions, as far as green rows, they are outpacing the red rows that we're actually seeing. So we see institutions have been loading up, and I'm not going to go through all of them because there's quite a bit here and I don't want to take up too much of your time in this video, but one of the things that this looks like, it looks fairly bullish. Institutions do believe in the long-term prospects of Palantir thus far. Now, when we take a look at the short interest information, scrolling down the page, you can see the short shares availability is at 10 million, updated 8 minutes ago. And as far as for the short ball free rate, it is at 0.25%. Now, when we take a look at the history of the short volume ratio, we can see here for August the 6th, Friday, it was at 37.48, and for August the 5th, it was 32.25. So it did go up quite a bit. So with that said, since it is at 37, it still continues to have short squeeze potential inside of Palantir. So if we have a lot of volume that is coming into the stock, then we could look forward to seeing some moves to the upside. But if we have low volume, and as far as the 10-year does continue to spike, then it could be a very volatile time for Palantir. But do keep in mind, they do have earnings, and there's going to be anticipation around that as well. So we're going to have to be patient and see how the stock price actually performs. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for Palantir. So we can see here on the inflow, it was 70.32, and on the outflow, it was 78.06. We have 0 on the large for both. On the medium, on the inflow side, we have 37.82, and then on the small, we have 32.50. On the medium size for outflows, it was 44.99, and as far as for the small, it was at 33.07. When we take a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, out of the 5 days, we had 3 inflow days, and we had 1 day where it ended up being an outflow, and you can see for August the 6th, we had 0 orders as far as for being large scale. So with that said, what we're seeing with Palantir is the impact of what happened in the market on the Friday. I'm going to be going into more details about that in the final thoughts, but a lot of growth stocks like Palantir were impacted, and there was a lot of selling, and it has to do with the 10-year note. It has a big impact on growth stocks, especially the ones that are not at a profitable range that Wall Street actually looks for, and also when it comes down to its overall valuations. But with all of that said, let's jump into the final thoughts right now and close this video out. So for my final thoughts for Palantir, I'm definitely liking the prospects of this stock going into earnings. And of course, I am going to be looking into trading it. We do know earnings is on August the 12th. And also for the past 3 earnings reports, they've been able to beat expectations. Am I going to be holding through earnings? Most likely not, because there's been a lot of volatility going on inside of the market. And at the same time, hey, you know, I like to protect my profits. And then also one thing that we have to keep in mind, going on Fintel, we saw institutions are continuing to load up on shares. We're seeing this from the filings. And then on top of that, it does have short squeeze potential. So if we end up having a lot of volume coming into the stock, then we could see those spikes and those moves to the upside. But one thing to be clear of is the 10-year note. It started spiking on the Friday, and due to the fact of Palantir's current valuation, it gets impacted when the 10-year note spikes. And this happens with growth stocks down the board, especially when they're not the most profitable of companies. And you can notice this when you take a look at PE ratios. I won't be going too deep into that with this particular kind of a video because, hey, I know many of you are focused on trading and so forth, but that's just more so the fundamental aspect. So if that 10-year continues to spike going in on the Monday, there's going to be even more volatility. We saw similar price action like this back in May. You remember when you saw a lot of those growth stocks ending up pulling back? That was due to the fact where we had the 10-year where it was spiking. So now it is happening again. If the 10-year decides, well, you know what, to cool off a bit going in on Monday, and especially for the rest of the week, then we could see Palantir start making some moves back up. But one thing to do keep in mind, since institutions are loading up on shares, it's very key that you know where the areas of support are. So at least you could trade off those fluctuations when it bounces off support and when it bounces off resistance. And if it does pass the resistance level we were talking about inside of the technical analysis, of course, I would look forward to seeing more momentum. So continue to keep an eye on the stock. You can put it on your watch list. Anyone that's going long on Palantir, I would say, hey, the best place to start a position when it's under $20. I know many of you are not going to want to hear that, but again, I just feel like if the 10-year does continue to spike and we see pullbacks in growth stocks, you can get Palantir within this particular price range. But of course, in regards to earnings, we're going to have to see how it actually turns out, because it also could have an impact on the stock as well. And I just want to make sure that all of you are aware of that. And I'm actually excited about their earnings report. Like I said, I do have shares that I keep for Palantir for the long term, when I was telling you guys to load up when it was like $17, $18. So with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.